Hey, this is Arsenette from Rambling Rican. This is part 3. Yay! We're almost done on day 1. I don't even know, 6. I don't even know where we are. So, either way, this is the end of day 1. And hopefully this is the type of things you want to hear. So let me know in the comments. And without further ado, this is the last part of that 90-minute video. This is the point where I was saying that I was humbled by how well I was treated. I'm a nobody. I'm really a nobody. And so because I missed last year the final guys, like, everybody knew I was there for Nagano. I really, really wanted to see Nagano's run. And at that particular moment in time, we had no idea that we were not going to see Nagano's run that night. So I asked quietly, am I allowed to at least be near the door so I can see it? Because I know there's probably not going to be enough space in the stands. So I ended up being allowed to go back in. In fact, they put me in the front row. Like, you didn't have to. There's a corner way up in the bleachers. I'm perfectly fine being up there. I just want to see it. And they're like, no. And there was plenty of space because I think an entire section emptied out and they never filled it back in. And considering that the runs were going really, really slow, I have expected that they would clear me out after a while, and I completely understand it. Like, if they wanted me to move, and fine. So they said, just stay there. Don't bring attention to yourself, and just kind of go with the flow, and you should be fine. So I found funny because, and then the All-Stars ended up walking out like they always do, where they record the usually not this time around because they cut all those things out, but you have like the audience reactions and more specifically the star reactions. So I stand out there, Akiyama's standing like right in front of me, and Nagano's in front of me, and we're sitting just goofing around because next to me on my left was Takeda's wife, Aya, and who's really, really sweet. And I had the circumstances of how they got married was a little frustrating to watch as a fan, and no one ever likes to see anybody go through a divorce, but that's already settled. He remarried, and his wife is really, really nice, and I'm glad that I had that because I didn't have a positive image of her before. Now I think she's an absolute sweetheart, and whatever happened is their own private thing between his ex-wife and whatever. That's their own thing. So I'm happy about that. And so I sat next to Aya, and then on my right was Yubei, and then right next to him was Mika. And Mika, I feel bad for Yubei because every once in a while Mika would have a conversation with me as if he wasn't sitting there. like she knew he was going to translate it. And it was at one point, like I kept mentioning before, I never expected them to be almost like a touchy-feely people, because I've always had an image of Japanese people to be a lot more reserved. But I had more like arm taps, like the hey, trying to get your attention, more in that in tournament than I've ever had forever. And it was just like, boy, my right arm kind of hurts. But here she leans over to tap to get my attention. And of course, it's difficult because everything's loud, and there's only certain points when you're allowed to move or say anything. In fact, usually what happens is, that large crane shot where you start at the red buzzer and then they fly across, and during that entire time the person that's in the start line is being introduced. The way that works out is that you have the people asking, okay, who's, I'll just pick a number 85, who's here to support number 85? Okay, and then they take the cameras and they train it to where their support group is. So once that's done and they explain to the entire crowd who this person is, their age and what they do, because everything's all like occupation based. That's how it always is. It's like, okay, so ramen shop person, blah, 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 and then, or if they're a star, they give you a brief synopsis of who the star is. So everybody has at least an idea of who the person is, which I think is fantastic. And they've always done this. So after that's done, you hear 3, 2, and then quiet. So what that means is that, and usually you can tell because the crane is being moved, the camera is being moved all the way to the back. So then everything is supposed to be quiet, and they pan the shot, and then they start off, and then you do the support, like, hey, good luck, yay, gamate, and so that's what they do. So, but in between that, when they're resetting or whatever, then you can have the conversation. So sort of like at the end, and then all of a sudden Mika's arm goes across, which I thought was amusing. So halfway through, I don't even know, I would assume late 80s, low 90s. They started to slow down again. It's now like 9:30, 10 o'clock. I would say about 9:30. I think it was around 9:30. And Yubei turned around and he goes, oh my god. I'm like, what? He goes, look at the lights. Now they have, floodlights, huge spotlights, like stadium lights, I guess is what I don't know what they're called. And you just saw dew flowing sideways like rain. I mean, it wasn't rain, it was dew. And anybody that has been anywhere near the tropics, Florida, in my case would be Puerto Rico, you know what that looks like. And it was epic. And then Mika, arm across, and she takes her hand and runs it across the pipe, because we're sitting in the front row, so you have the the pipes that, I don't know, barriers, I don't know what they're called. there's like pipes there, I don't know. rails. So she takes her hand and slides it across, and her hand is covered. And we're like looking at each other going, oh my god, this is a problem. So as she does that, Yamada comes out of nowhere. I don't even know what he was doing. And so he's like looking at me and like swaying back and forth. I have no idea. I don't claim to know what his thought pattern is. And so he's having a conversation with Aya and I think someone else that was next to him. I would assume, Takada group. And so they're just in there talking, so I ended up taking a camera, and then so I like snap a couple photos of him doing that, and then so as he was doing that, you had Nagano like swaying between. It was like someone trying to get in between the shot, which I thought was actually really funny. So he walks over and he's like, "Has anybody have any idea what's going on?" We're like, "I have no idea." So it got to the point. And you already saw that. At least that was shown on TV. And for the record, both Kenjis, Darvish and Kong, should have had reruns. The thing that was told to us was, because they couldn't dry the warp wall, and that's where really people had problems. I'm like, no, they had problems on the freaking TIE Fighter. But anyway, so before that happened, they said, all right, we're going to try to dry the course. Everybody just get something to eat. There's like doner kebab out there, and we're going to just dry this entire place, or at least try to. So the fact that they sent everybody out, I'm like, okay, this is going to be a while. So I get up, and by that point, remember I had said that we had a rough flight over. Don was in agony. He had tweaked his back or pulled something on the flight over, the 13-hour flight from Chicago to Japan, and he couldn't even lift his arms above his waist. And so that's why I don't have a lot of photos from that time. But he sat in that chair the entire time. So while I'm in the stands watching stuff and whatever, he was watching all of our stuff out there. And at this point, he was soaked. People tried putting like towels and stuff on him. The temperature had dropped. It is now freezing and cold. I actually should have brought my coat. I ended up just, in fact, I forgot my sweater. So I had my friend's sweater, who was a little bit smaller than I am. And it's like, Okay, this is kind of, so I sent him home, and it took advantage. There were a couple people that called taxis, and so because the TBS building is right next to it, and I've shown this in the map, where instead of turning left to go up to the lot itself, you would turn right to go into TBS. That's its own parking area. So there's a lot of taxis that collect there for many reasons. There's all kinds of stuff that's happening there, and they need, clients and yada yada yada. So they ended up calling a bunch of them, sent them over there, and so I just said, can somebody just please send them back to the hotel? And it was glad that they did, because we were still out there for like another hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. I think it was closer to 2 hours. And so what ended up happening was, once that was done, like when you get like a certain eye contact with somebody that you can tell they want to talk to you, that was Anastas. So I've been seeing him like a little bit here, a little bit there during the day, but for the most part he was like, running around in different groups and whatever. And then so he was all by himself, and I'm not even sure where his family was at that point. They were there, but they were off in different areas. So he was by himself in the same cordon off area. And so last year I couldn't talk to him because dude speaks French. Now I know very little French. If I see it written, I can kind of figure it out because it shares Latin, and I know some Latin, and so if I even tried coming up with like if it's close to Spanish, and I know Spanish very well if it's close, but spoken language is a little bit more difficult for me. I don't know enough Japanese, and he didn't know English. So out of nowhere, he starts speaking to me in English, and really good English, not perfect English, but really good English. And I'm like gobsmacked, like, wait, am I actually having a conversation in English here? And then, like, you can tell, like, sometimes there are a couple words, like, oh, it's not working. And so I tell him to say it in French. And then he'll say it in French, or if he remembers the Japanese word, and I would actually know some Japanese word. So we're having a conversation. We talked 45 minutes? I felt bad for him because he was on that start line for, like, I would say definitely a good half hour, possibly 45. I think it might have been longer, because by the time that happened I was like 10. I think he was there for an hour. Holy crap. I felt bad for him because, as any athlete would ever tell you, and yeah, when you look at me you don't see me as an athlete, but I was an athlete a long time ago. Yeah, before you were born I was an athlete. But it's extremely difficult to, okay, you're about to go, and there's a mental state you put yourself into, like, okay, ready, and you're on, and then you're told to wait, and then you just kind of have to cool down, pull back, and then do this. He did this for at the very least half an hour, possibly up to an hour. And I was at one point, he was on the start line the whole time. At one point they was like, okay, go ahead and sit down or whatever, like, because they had seats there. Is it go ahead and sit down and whatever? So no, it's okay. And then he would sit on the start line, but the start line's totally soaked. And then they put clothes back on him again. Then he takes the clothes back off, and then it's like dude standing there in a loincloth while the dew's flowing sideways in rain. It's like 10 o'clock at night. It's cold. It's just, oh my god, it's miserable. We just saw Drew barely past that. And it was epic watching Drew's run, because I can hear April the whole way. And it was just, because her voice is distinctive from Casey's, and yes, I heard Casey's. Casey always has like certain phrases that she uses, but April like talks to him and has like actually talks to him. So the whole thing with the get off the wall, you train in rain. I heard that crystal clear, and I'm like, oh, she's just dressing them down. And I was so happy they actually passed, because Lord knows if he would have passed or not. We actually did discuss that, but I'm jumping ahead again. So I spent the time talking to Anastas, and then all of a sudden Yuji comes over, and he's like, "You're talking to him?" It's like, "Yeah." And Yubei was with me as well. So if there were any other words that he remembered in Japanese, that the Anastasia recognized in Japanese that I didn't know, he would translate. But we all like talk to each other, and then so Gene had come up around that time as well. Yeah, but Gene was also there. For part of it, he was kind of floating everywhere because he has friends everywhere, and so he shows up, and he's like, "You're talking to him?" He's like, "Yeah, he speaks English now," which I congratulated him because he didn't know English last year, and I'm having conversational English with him this year. Holy crap, that's a lot of work. Especially learning from a Latin language. English is not an easy language. And so I said, in fact, I told Anastas, your English is better than your Japanese. He goes, I know, it's embarrassing. I'm like, oh, that's so cute. So he's a really, oh my god, he's a sweetheart. I love him. So, but you just like, wait, you're talking to him? He's like, yeah. And it's like, well, how do you, and asking Gene is like, how do you talk to him? It's like, I talk to him in Japanese. Wait, he speaks Japanese? Like, it's not like if you ever asked him. He's like, I don't know. It's just so it's funny. But again, I was like, why are these people hanging out with each other? It's just really, I can't even explain how funny that was, because I'm used to doing that, especially here in the US, that you're mixed. The US is so multicultural. It doesn't even faze me which countries people come from, and I try my best to try to communicate with whatever language, one way or another, we'll figure out. Japan is not quite that way. It's just, it's just not. They're very isolated when it comes to that. So here, all of our foreigners, even if we didn't speak the right language, we found a way to talk to each other. So all of a sudden you hear the sound. This is now, I would say, definitely 45 minutes to an hour. It was a long time. I mean, there were lines to the porta potty. People sat down to eat. I'm sure Doner Kebab was happy because they were able to clear out all their food. But it was weird. So we're like, okay, are we doing this? So right before, I would say about 20 minutes in, Anastasia starts telling me that they're going to delay. And I'm like, are you sure? And it's like, yeah, when I left, they said we might actually do this tomorrow. So I'm like, tomorrow? Nagano hears it because he's walking behind me. And again, we kind of all hovered each other all day. And he goes, wait, what? And I said, Asa? And I said, no, Ashita. Asa is morning and Ashita is tomorrow. And then so Nagano gets all excited. I get to sleep. So I'm laughing. And then all of a sudden, everybody starts cheering. Wait. Who heard Ashita? I'm like, tomorrow. I said, maybe. We don't know. And I put my fingers. I'm crossing my fingers as if you can see me. He's like, crossing my fingers like, maybe tomorrow. And they're like, wait, really? And so they all run around to try to find out what's going on. We get the announcement that we're all going in, and then all of a sudden Yuji turns around and he gives me the thumbs up. Ashita. I'm like, oh, okay. So we all go over, and then so we all sit down, and then all of a sudden in the speakers, and then Yubei just like puts his head in the shoulder, like head in his hand, like, oh god. They announce, please sit where you were before, to kind of keep continuity. So all of a sudden everybody gets right back up and they start moving around. It was just like, wait, were you sitting here? Oh crap, can you move over? And they're like people climbing over. It's like, why didn't you say that from the beginning? And besides, what I find amusing is they never used that anyway, because it didn't really matter because they didn't show the crowd. And so, oh my god. So we're sitting there, and then the funny part was freaking Shingo. So now what I find amusing with all this is that they spent the entire time trying to make sure that everybody in the audience was sitting there. All of a sudden you see everybody lined up in the front, like all the competitors that hadn't run yet, including Anastasia, who's still in his loincloth. I know it's not a loincloth, it's just funnier to say it that way. He's in his underwear. And so that wasn't what was there before. So why did you go through this whole thing trying to move the damn audience? So we're all getting ready, and then so And you get the production crew. Okay, I'll start. Everybody move over to the left, like 5-6 steps. So I hear, 5 and 6, and so Shingo looks like a 10-year-old doing this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and then he stops, and he's like jammed up against either. I think it was Akiyama that he was standing up. So Akiyama's cracking up. He's laughing so hard, and then so he just gets it, and then Nagano's like, Can you just call this so I can go to sleep? I'm exhausted. I'm falling asleep standing here. And then all of a sudden, no. Everybody moves about 3 steps to the right. What? Okay, fine. And they move over. So each time they did this probably about 5 or 6 times. Like moving to the left and moving to the right. So each time they did that, Nagano was like, Hisashiburi! Like, long time no see. Like, oh, sayonara. Matane! It was just so funny. It's like, what he kept saying was, okay, long time no see. Oh, see you later. Okay, goodbye. Okay, it's like, oh, long time no see. It's just, it was epic, and it was just so funny. I kind of wish they did that. That's all organizational stuff. That would have never ended up on TV. I just thought that was hilarious. So, and then they do the, they at least did the announcement part, but they didn't show the because it's sort of like, yeah, we're going back tomorrow. And then so they turned off the cameras, and they said, okay, everybody show up at 5. And we'll start soon after that. So anybody that was actually here right now this second, including the lottery, is allowed to come back the following day. So everybody's like, we were planning to be here. So it was sort of like, please, people show up. Because this is unusual. We don't normally not have anybody in the stands the following day. So I look at production, they're like, oh, of course you can come back, seriously. It's fine. So yay, thank you. So I'll stop here because that's basically it. Oh, well, one more story. Sorry, it was like an hour and a half going in here. At the end, everybody's, getting, of course, the mad dash to get to the taxis again, because not a lot of people have cars to drive in. I mean, they had some, but there's a lot of people like us that stayed in a hotel somewhere, and they have to get back. And this is, it was, at this point, it was like 12:30. And, who was that? Okay, Drew. Yeah, I talked to Drew for a little bit because he was trying to make sure that both Kenjis got their rerun, which we found out later never happened. But he explained where he was having problems. It's a whole lot easier if you pulled it back by a couple people, because that was definitely, and it was a freaking Drew just did like the crust lighter on the TIE fighter, because he had no grip on his feet. I still have no idea how the hell he did it, but it's Drew. You just kind of go with it as Drew. It's like, it's so difficult to have that as a litmus test because Drew's at the top of his game right now, and not everybody is. So to use that as an example, I just thought that was unfair. And he said it too. It's sort of like, he was just so happy. He was like, I am so freaking happy that I passed this, because I now know that I am definitely in the second stage, because we don't know what's gonna happen. And so that was part of the conversation between Drew and I, going, are you gonna see any of the Kenjis coming the next day? And then I figured it wasn't, because there was an all-out argument going on in the parking lot, and that's about as much as I can say about it. Let's just say there were words that were said, and the answer was no, you're not getting a rerun. Kenji wasn't part of it at all. Kenji kind of figured he was going to get shafted anyway, so it really didn't matter. And I'm like, that's really a veteran. Because it's sort of like, he's lost like every political argument. He doesn't even bother anymore. Sort of like, they said he was out, he's out. Great. And I'm like, it's like, it's okay. I'm happy that you're getting all upset for me. I'm like, does this not bother you? He goes, it's Sasuke. And that's like its own verb. Like, it's not verb. I guess a state of mind. Like, the sky's falling. It's okay. It's Sasuke. It's like how? And I don't know, I guess if you're in it for 15, 20 years and you've seen all kinds of, all like the bad luck has hit that poor man. I feel horrible for him. It's like this even happened in the final for him. Like, good lord. But he was totally chill. He was like, yeah, you just kind of gotta go with the flow. It's a TV show. Now, if it was a sporting event, I mean, there'll be like, federations and stuff on your behalf supporting you. But it isn't. It's a TV show. So you're at the whim of the producers, and the producers decided, nope. And that's what happened. I wasn't happy about it, and I voiced my displeasure, but there's nothing you can do about a situation like that. So I was hoping the following day that they started back up with the Kenjis, and then I saw it was only Anastas, but I'll leave that for the next one. So we get to the parking lot, everybody's leaving, everybody's getting taxis and whatever, and I'm just kind of waiting until the first round goes. It's a whole lot easier. My friend was leaving, she had her car filled, and then so I'm like kind of like, I think I was I with Jean? I think I was with Yube. And we're just kind of waiting around because we asked for later ones, waiting for everybody else to kind of leave because you can tell they're all rushed. And so, out of nowhere, I hear my name almost like in Doppler effect. I don't know if you like it's like, I'm like, wait. I turn around, Nagano's hauling ass across this parking lot. I'm like, yes? Can I help you? And he calls out my friend's name, Carol. And Carol, most people that have read my blog know that she was the author of Power of Sasuke, and that's its own, I'll probably do a video on that at some point. But it's still out there on the internet, and that's how I met her. This point is almost 10 years ago. And so, but it reminded me, and so we were trying to get him interviewed for the documentary that is being filmed, and they're only about halfway through, so I'm not sure when they're gonna actually finish it. But he turned around and says, I'm off all day tomorrow. It's like, oh, that's right. So I turn around looking to see where Carol is, and I see her car drive past us, like, there she goes. And so all of a sudden she gets parked right behind all these taxis. So I run over and go, Nagano needs to talk to you about it, possibly scheduling that interview tomorrow. And she goes, oh! So she gets out. That got all settled out, and then I'll talk about that, from the following day. But he's like, thumbs up, and I'm like, just go to sleep. He starts laughing. Kids are all like half dead. They're like so exhausted. And Sami's like, Matashita! Until tomorrow. It was like waving, everybody giving hugs, and then Akiyama says goodbye because he was never scheduled to be there on Sunday. I'm like all depressed. He's like giving me a big hug goodbye, and Poonpei's like, I'm going to sleep. It's like he wasn't even supposed to be there that day at all. In fact, we found out like Thursday, and this is Saturday night, that he was maybe going to do a couple of hours, and he ended up staying pretty far. So we head out and head back to the hotel, and that's where I'll stop. And so we'll finish off the following morning. And yeah, these are pretty long. I wanted to know if this is the type of thing you wanted to hear. It was, again, because I didn't record a lot of things at the end, and a lot of it was, I'm not allowed to record anything on set, and I wasn't about to, I wasn't about to dishonor the people that gave me the opportunity to be on this set, because I didn't need to be there for, that big chaos at the end. But I wasn't supposed to take photos or videos or anything on set, and I was there for the second half, most of the second half on set, and I can't take photos of that. But story-wise, I know I got yelled at last year for doing very, 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 very short videos. And then this is now the opposite of very, 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 very long. So please let me know in the comments if you like it. If you wanted me to do something different for part 2. Or if this is the type of thing you actually wanted. Hopefully this gives you at least a better idea of what happened during the day. All the positive things. Results and stuff you guys already know. There's kind of no point in me going through that. But I wanted to give you sort of like what was it like behind the scenes, and the general air and, you know, funny stories and the personal things, because that's what I look forward to. And I was very happy that all of that happened. I mean, not the circumstances and all the crap that happened, but you know what I mean. So yeah, let me know in the comments if you don't mind the length, or if you need me to cut back or break them up into different videos. Either way, I still have the second day to go, and the second day of Sasuke, and the rest of the week. So yeah, until then, thank you for listening if you've lasted this long, and take care.